Yo, what up? What's happening, everybody? Welcome back. Blood Splatter Chatter here with my brother Missing Link to talk Maniac 2012. We did the original Maniac last Wednesday with the brother Stu and had such a good time talking about that one that I decided neither of us had ever seen the 2012 remake. So we decided to check it out. This one's starring Elijah Wood, directed by Frank Calfone. That's what I'm going with. That's what I'm
Sounds
going
good to
with.
me.
He did P2, which is the only he's done a handful of things, but the one that I've heard of is P2, which came out in the 2010s or maybe like
2007, 2008-ish.
2007, 2008. Yeah, I think
Sounds
somewhere around
familiar.
there. Takes place in like a parking lot. I've heard things. I've heard pretty good things about that.
Oh, I think I've seen it's got you've seen him in a bunch of he was in the Ghost Rider movie. He played like Mephisto's son. He's like he was in
Oh,
Interstellar. He was like one of the scientists. He's played like this crazy
Wes
he's got a
Bentley.
weird look to him. Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, I've
Yeah,
heard that's something I've wanted to check that out for a while. That's on Tubi. So maybe that's something we
oh shit.
should get
Okay.
around to. Johnny Recap, appreciate you being here, brother. Tom, what's happening, man?
Yo.
Appreciate you. And this was written. This is another guy that's like I hear his name a lot, and I haven't seen enough of his stuff. But it was written by Alexander Aja or Aja. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but he directed High Tension, which is a 2003 French like fast-paced slasher film that I've yet to
Yeah.
see that I always hear good things
I
about.
think you would dig that.
Okay,
And
you have seen that
he
one?
2006, I believe. What didn't he do? Hills Have Eyes?
Yes, he
Okay,
did
all
that.
right. That's what I know. I discovered him on, and
And then recently he did one like an alligator flick that I've heard good things about called Crawl.
that was surprisingly good. I thought the trailers, like without saying too much, thought the trailers. I was like, why would you make a movie about this? By the time I saw it, I was like, okay, I take my words back. I eat them.
I kind of heard similar things about that. People he seems to be someone that like people respect and they're like, I don't know, he just decided to start making because he did Piranha 3D too. Not 3D too, but also. So he's kind of
Interesting.
he started out at one way and then he's went a very different direction as of recently. The other big name to mention, the biggest name involved in this project is Elijah Wood. And that was the first thing I had to look into is like, is this something that he was into? Did he seek this project out? And no, they approached him, but evidently he is a pretty big horror buff. And I
Yeah.
look at this, we've brought this up on the show before where we have these child actors. This is like his Showgirls, where Jesse
Mm-hmm.
from Saved by the Bell did Showgirls to try and break out.
They want to
Was it
step out. Yeah.
Nicole Ricci? If I pronouncing her name right, she did that Black Snake Moan. You'll have a child actor or like somebody that came up through Disney that does something risque, or maybe they'll show their breasts, or
They want
they'll
to lose
have
that
sex
image.
on screen, something to make people no longer you can't look at them as a child anymore. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, okay, like they've stepped
Jenna
out.
Ortega. I didn't know her from the Disney stuff, but apparently that X scene was like her breaking
Totally.
that Disney
Yeah,
mold.
she did that, and then was like, "Wait, how much money are you gonna give me for Wednesday?" Never mind, never mind. I'm back. I'm going right back.
True.
What is it? Johnny Recap says, "Don't read any tunt." I don't know. I don't know. He says, "I thought Elijah Wood has his own horror production company. He does. Yeah,
Right.
that's
Okay.
another thing I saw. I don't know what else he's done. Oh no, he produced A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. He was one of the producers, at least on that,
No
which
shit.
I thought was interesting. So, like
Yeah.
I said, we're gonna be breaking this one down. We're gonna be talking about the remake, but we're gonna do a fair amount of comparing and contrasting to the original since it's fresh on both of our minds. And ignore my phone is acting up. Okay, I was like, what the? I was like, man, Johnny Recap knows some hip kind of lingo that I don't fucking understand. But um, uh, here's the big thing about this movie, where obviously the big thing about 1980s Maniac, it was one of the first 80s killer perspective slasher films where you're spending most of your time instead of with the teens that are being knocked off, you're spending time with the actual killer. And it's not the first to do that, but it was one of the big 80s ones that did it. In this one, and the thing that drew Elijah Wood to the project, they really lean into that. We're like, oh, you're making a killer perspective movie. We're going to make it a killer perspective movie where it's actually you could almost film a majority of the movie, and I'm curious how much of the movie Elijah Wood is there. You could do it without him.
Just as narration when the time.
Do you feel like that's how it was? Like a good chunk of it, like he was there obviously for some of it because they'll show him in the mirror. But did
Mhm.
you feeling that like a good chunk of his dialogue was recorded afterwards in post production?
Yeah, yeah. That's it'd be he's too big of a name. I feel like to be
Hmm.
wasting his time. It's like we'll get him when we need him.
Right,
Probably he probably I, mean, I don't know. Maybe he charges by the day. I don't know. Maybe it's cheaper to have him just record all his lines in one day instead of
right,
like. So I feel like that would probably be the easiest if it was a smaller actor. I feel like they might be required to be more on set or something like
right.
that. But I definitely think that was the case. I was a little trepidatious about that, like going into it. Like I was like, because it's like POV movies. You're stretching, and it's like you really have to have that ironed out sometimes because
Right.
like the narrative can wear thin if you're not doing it right.
And the technique, you got to keep that
Yes.
technique up to be able to pull it. It really, from what I understood, it was a 24-day shoot, so it was done really quickly, and they
Wow.
really had to have everything choreographed ahead of time going in, just to when are we going to show the mirror and things like. And that's what I'm saying. Like I could see them doing a full day of shooting, and they're being like, okay, we've got the scene, we've got that 1 minute where Elijah Wood is in it. Get Elijah in, and we'll. They could have done most of his scenes in like a couple days in this movie. I'm
Yeah.
just not sure how were
Yeah.
those always his hands. That's another thing that I wish I
Mm.
know. I looked into it. I wasn't sure. I feel like they were, but I'm not sure.
I was wondering about those things too, where it's like they show him and then it's like they transition to his hands doing
Hmm.
something. And I don't know. I was curious about that as well. I feel like I don't know. I feel like that oftentimes I'll probably go with hand models for that, because
Hmm.
or maybe it's
Cheaper.
like the director's hands. Yeah,
The
yeah,
other thing, like, this was a bit of a much like it was Joe Spinell, who acted, he played the lead in the original. He produced that, he co-wrote the story for that, and it was like a passion project for him. And from what
right.
I understand, this appears to be a passion project for Elijah Wood, and he's sitting on that Lord of the Rings money. Fuck, who knows? He might not have shit else to do, so he might have been there for the whole
No,
thing. I really have no
man.
idea.
And I think after like Lord of the Rings, I think Elijah Wood just started doing projects that he has interest in.
Right,
Because if you notice, nothing he's been in since Lord of the Rings has been like a massive success, and it's not like he's chasing that though. He achieved all
right.
that early on in life. But so it's like that leads me to believe everything he does is like because he could have easily said, "Nah, I've done Lord of the Rings. I don't need to." The fact that I to be honest, I was surprised you said that they sought him out for this. I felt like this would have been
Right.
something that he would have been chasing.
Same,
This
dude.
I don't know, but it worked. It the only difference is like I feel like Zito, he was slaying back in the day. He was like that dude, his I don't know if Elijah Wood's ever been like the standard for sexiness, for bagging or just slaying.
Right.
It,
Well,
uh,
dude, I think it's weird. Like how much did we talk about Joe Spinell and how I'm trying to look at the homely? I think is the most
the
polite way to
only
call a dude is to call a dude ugly, but he pretty much this ugly dude that's just like he's just kind of disturbing even to look at when he's not doing that crazy face and
yeah,
choking women out. Elijah Wood could not be more different. Like I'm not saying he's like,
yes,
the sexiest man alive or anything, but he's cute. He's
yes,
like, you know
very
what I mean? He's
boyish,
he's got those eyes that are, you know what I mean? He very
puppy
boyish,
dog
exactly.
eyes.
He's gonna look like a kid when he's 80. He's gonna be
Yes,
getting carded for alcohol his entire life. Kenneth Bird, what up, brother? Appreciate you being here, Kaka, my man. But
and you. Oh, sorry.
well, part of the reason why I don't think he's done like the big projects is I don't think he's a very good actor. Like I don't hate
Sure.
him in this movie. I don't like him in Yellow Jackets. Like what I've seen when he was in season 2. I haven't seen season 3. Hated him in that. He's just like fucking weird and off-putting. And in
Yeah,
this, I've heard people praise his performance. I don't think it's dog shit. I feel like almost everybody in this movie, like they act different when they're talking to a camera or when they're like
As opposed
recording
to,
something in post. Just like
yeah,
Cloverfield, the first Cloverfield movie, everyone's got this like certain kind of tone to their voice that like they're not talking to the person. They're
right.
talking so that the people around them can hear them. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like there's a
Yeah,
different tone that people have. Everybody in the movie has that tone, and it fucking bugs me.
but
But overall,
you
I
know,
just don't like Elijah Wood in this movie almost at all.
I don't know if it's because like I don't know if it's because it's such a polar opposite of Zito that it's just like I don't know. Like I said, and Elijah Wood is not like a physically intimidating, imposing
Ex-
dude. You know,
and the
there's
and he was Joe Spinell is right.
yes, he's a husky, homely dude. You know, there's a vibe to that. Elijah Wood. If I was a gay man, I feel like he would be
Oh yeah,
a twink. You know,
oh yeah.
he's always gonna look like a boy. You know, that and I don't see it. There's certain points in the movie. You know, I did enjoy it. I was just
Mhm.
I never questioned Zito being intimidating or getting his kills off. Elijah Wood, I was just like, really? You know, sometimes I was like, oh,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Someone
Um,
else would have served the movie better. Like, so I
yes,
get why he got the part. Obviously, I bet there's a ton of people that only saw it because Elijah Wood was in it. And there's a ton of people that don't know that it was a remake. I wonder what I would think of this is a type of movie, and I'm not saying I didn't enjoy it. I did to a degree. I clearly didn't enjoy it as much as I did the original. As I've
right,
titled this Maniac 2012 versus Maniac 1980. Maniac 1980 for me wins hands down. But I
yeah,
wonder how I would have felt if I just stumbled across this movie on Tubi and saw it. I think I would have
that's a
thought
good
it was
question.
pretty. I respect what they did. I think I would have liked it even more because I wouldn't have known what it was based on and where the beats were and been comparing it to the other one.
Yeah, comparing and contrasting, that's always a motherfucker. But to this to strength though, to the strength of this film, I will say I feel like if I hadn't seen the OG first and I saw this one first, I would walk away wanting to see the OG. Like, okay, then I
Right.
want to see where they
Totally.
got this from. So
What up, Sal? Says Elijah draws you in with those eyes. I'm with
he
you.
does. He's got some really like they're like dog blue, like a wolf or something, bro. Like they're very uncanny.
For sure. Johnny Recap says the only thing that took me out of the story a bit, and it's minor, but in real life, do you guys think Elijah Wood would have been able to bag girls looking like those ones? No, no, not without being Elijah Wood. You know what I
You know
mean?
what? He does.
He's a cute kid, but that's the thing. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, he's not looking like. It depends on what you're into, but yeah, unless you're into
he
little
doesn't
guys.
give me like sexual vibes. Period. He gives me like asexual vibes. Like I don't feel
Mm.
like he would be into people in that sort of sense. Like I don't. I don't.
That's so funny.
I just don't.
I don't think he's into people like that. That's so funny. I'm
Not
with
if
you.
it's romantic.
The so what do you think as far as like the way they pulled it off? For well, I guess overall thoughts. My overall thoughts on the film is I was more into the first half of it. Like
Gotcha.
the gimmick kind of wore thin after a while. At first, I was really enjoying watching the beats. You know, same beats as the original. The way that they were filming it was cool, but it's just like I said, the style of acting, and just by like midway through the movie, I was just kind of over the gimmick, and I was like, this just isn't gonna be as good as I kind of thought it might have been at the beginning of it.
Yeah.
But it's not the worst. It doesn't have the grit or the grime that the original
Hmm.
does. Like New York City, we talked about how much that like was a character in the movie, and like you can't replicate
No,
1979 New York City in
at all.
2012. It's just not as gritty. It's more commercialized and like looks like
And
a
it
friendlier
felt
place to be.
yeah. I was gonna like when you were talking about how it doesn't have the grit of the 70s, I was like, yeah, this felt like a glamorized version
Right.
of New York in a sense. Um and what else was I gonna say? Oh, the bits. I think what lost me was like the rehashing of the bits. I think where I was enjoyed up to an extent up to the like fairly into the film, like 50 minutes in, but
Same,
parking
dude.
lot
Same.
scene where he chases the chick, which that kind of annoyed me because I'm like, bitch, you made it that far, you better hop your ass over that goddamn fence.
Right.
Do something, use that strength. But then he like shanks her, and then like that was cool, a cool scene because he shanks her, and the camera does like this cool turn around and shows him, or pans out and shows him standing there with the knife.
Right.
But
I
then
was going
after
to
that,
ask
it
you
just
about
kind of
that. Well, I was going to ask you, like, it's kind of, we had this conversation when we talked about In a Violent Nature with this, which this definitely is comparable to a degree.
Yeah.
It's the other POV slasher.
Better.
And we had talked about in that one, because there's a couple minutes or there's a few times where they leave the gimmick. Like, and this,
Right.
I was almost like, it was cool that they showed him and everything the way that they did. But it's like, that's the only time that I can remember in the movie where they left the POV gimmick. And I was thinking, I don't know if it was worth it. We'd seen him in mirrors. They could have done that in a puddle, which I think would have been really cool. Or they could have, done like a reflection in another way. And I was like, I don't think it was worth it just to do it for that one scene.
I get that, because had it been our first time seeing him, like his reveal, I think that would have been much more effective of like panning the camera. But like you said, we had already seen him numerous times in like reflections and shit like that. Also, his job description, I feel like they could have changed that a little bit, because it's like, oh shit,
you were sideways for you're back. You're back. I was like, what?
All right. I think who owns a mannequin store? Like, like they could have, maybe he was like that was a hobby of his, is like collecting mannequins, and he like was trying to be an artist and put those on display, but him owning a mannequin store was I was like, it worked in the 70s till into the 70s, not so much in the 2010s,
Right.
But there was a nitpick. It wasn't something to focus on.
I don't even know if I picked up that it was a mannequin store, but you're right. He did just have a shop. That's what it was.
Yeah.
He was like selling and these. Oh yeah, because he was telling her,
fixed them
I'm looking for permanent homes for these mannequins.
Yeah.
What did you think of her? Because I remember one of the things we said about, or one of the things I said about the original was her name was probably Anna in that one, the photographer. Mm-hmm. They did a better job. I would say they're both really good looking, by the way. both the photographers in both movies. I think personally I did a pretty good job of not being overly pervy about how hot the original one was, but I'm throwing it out the window for this one. This one was hot. But she was. They're both really good looking girls. But in the original, I don't feel like by the end of the movie you were like, oh God, don't kill her. Like, and I feel like with this one, I don't know if I was like, oh God, don't kill her, but I was more like attached to her than I was the photographer in the original one, and I wanted her to die less. Did you feel that?
It's weird because in a way, like I feel like they gave her more to do of her arc in this movie, but it's weird to say that because we spent more time with, like, this movie was POV from the killer the entire time. But yeah, I feel like she had more to do, but I don't know about the acting, bro, because it's like I didn't not like her. I did like her, but there's one scene you were talking about earlier that was like, it's just kind of like an example of them talking to the camera, not to someone, and feeling different. Was when the reveal at the end, where like this end game, she's putting the pieces together and she's looking at him, but it's the camera, and there's just something that just feels like it's Cloverfield. They're leaving a message for the camera, and
his response in those times too felt like they weren't in a room together. He's got her in the headphones. He's like, no, I'm okay. It's like, it felt just bad acting. And I thought she when they first met, like when at the store, because you got to think what it is. Instead of an actor locking eyes with another actor and like feeding off of that, they're locking lenses and they're just staring down the barrel of a camera. So I get it. But I feel like when they met at the mannequin shop, she did a really good job originally of talking to the camera and not making it feel like that. But that scene you're talking about, couldn't agree more. Right there.
That mannequin, that's why I feel like they did a better job at making her more of a complete character. I guess because the mannequin scene where they meet each other, that does stick out in my mind. But it's like the OG, I don't think it was a very poignant, or they spent that much time on them. I don't know if it was one of the highlights in the OG of them meeting, like this film was. So yeah, they did. And I would say, even though I liked both endings, this one turned up just a little bit. I might have liked this one just a bit more, just because of the chaos that was going on. Because I'm like, oh shit, it was a little extra, but I don't know. I like certain aspects of it. I wouldn't say it's better, but I do appreciate certain how it's like just because he's lost his goddamn mind at this point, you know, kind of like Frank and the OG. But I feel like we see the effects, because you know we realize the OG he's lost his mind is when he's like sitting on the bed or whatever. All the dead chicks start to attack him. But in this one, it's like once he like, you know, he's chasing a girl. She like crashes the car, goes flying out the windshield. After he gets shanked by one of the mannequin hands, you know, he's losing blood. He's delusional, and then he gets ripped apart. So I feel like it was way more to it than
it built up to it.
Yeah,
I dig that. Like it was a more natural progression to it.
Yeah.
But that's the scene in the original when all of a sudden the mannequins come to life and they all like turn their head and look at him. That I loved. Like I liked that a little bit more. Oh, that reminds me of a scene at the earlier in this one. I wish they would have done more shit like this when he was at the restaurant with the one girl and that he brings back to the apartment, and he looks and everyone in the restaurant is staring at him. That was fucking awesome.
Disturbing, dude. Yeah.
Like to me, that's like I think that's like a schizophrenia thing, which is he's never described in this as having schizophrenia. But if you read like a description of the original, it says a man with schizophrenia, blah blah blah. So it's like he was intended, like that's the mania that he's dealing with, is schizophrenia.
Okay.
I talk about my psychedelic experiences way too often on the show. I ate fucking acid at an Humphreys McGee concert in downtown Chicago one time. I've eaten plenty of psychedelic drugs, but this shit hit me in a way where like I thought everybody at the concert was like in on some shit. It was like putting on a show for me, everybody in the audience. And like schizophrenia and psychedelic experiences can be very comparable. Like a lot of people thought when acid came about, they're like, oh, this is what schizophrenia is, from people describing their experiences. There's been further studies, and they don't think that is the case. But with that, I got that moment. And I was like, yeah, I get that. Everyone is fucking in on this. It's like, I could see where people would lose their fucking minds. I certainly fucking did. But I thought that was cool. I thought they should have done more bits like that.
No, I agree. I think because that's a good point. I don't think that they really played up like the mania of if something he would go through a lot. Like moments were there, but it's almost used for like shock value. It's not really trying to like get to the core of why he was. You know, they don't. We just know he has a problem with his mom. Well, actually, reduced to that one scene.
What do you think about? I think this movie, in so many ways, is like a really good example of the difference between filmmaking in 1980 and filmmaking now, where a lot of it is implied in the 1980 version, and this we're like, fuck it, let's get a flashback, and which neither is inherently better than the other. I don't know, and I liked the flashbacks in this, but in some ways, you seeing his mom kind of take something away. Either that or they should have went harder with it. I would have liked to see some of the abuse a little bit more, because all they're doing is showing his mom getting railed by dudes in front of him. That's unpleasant. You know what I mean? That'll fuck up your afternoon. But I would have liked to see some more like, get in the fucking closet, Frank, and like, you know what I mean? She was like, I love you, honey, while she's getting railed by these guys.
To show why he's so confused. I to your point, I think like with the implication route of storytelling, it's like it's left up to the imagination, and if an actor's, depending on the performance, if they're doing the job well enough, your imagination can fill in the blanks, and it can be way more intense than anything they might put on the screen, you know, because that's at that point it's making you reach within your own recall or emotional depth, so then you apply it to the film, you know.
Right.
But when it's show don't tell, or it's like when it's shown, like in this movie, when they're showing the mom, it's almost like they don't have enough faith in the story they're telling, or the performance of the actor, to be like, we have to really reinforce why he's so fucked up, you know, just in case you didn't know, this is why he's really fucked up, you know?
Which makes sense. I like the way you're setting up, where it's like kind of dependent on the actor to convey that. And when you have a movie, how much time you got to spend in the mirror with Elijah Wood? It's kind of hard. It's weird. Like you almost feel like you should be closer to this version of the character than the original, because you're with him the entire time. It's his point of view. But I feel like no, like actually seeing the character, seeing the performance is actually way more effective, which is interesting. I wonder if
That
someone would
you
have
heard
done a
about
better job, like a much better job. Like
I
someone
get why they
outside of Elijah Wood could have like made me feel closer to him.
who okay, because I get why they're going. They went for Elijah Wood because he does have like a very like social awkwardness. Like he can. You ever seen the show Wilfred? I highly suggest that's actually
I've heard of it. I think I've seen like he's got like an imaginary friend that's a dog or some shit.
yes, that deals with psychological or mental illness quite a bit.
It's a good
But
question. Who
yeah,
would it be? Sorry, yeah, go on. We'll come back to that.
no, I'm curious about that now too. I'm like because I get what they're going for, but I don't know if there's anyone. Oh, you know who might have been an interesting actor for it? His name's like Jay Baruchel, but he's been in like Knocked Up. He's like a skinny
I think I know
dude.
what you're talking about.
He's tall. Usually got like longer hair. He was in like Sorcerer's Apprentice with Nick Cage.
Is he someone that's kind of more along the lines of he's closer to Elijah Wood than Joe Spinell?
Yes, but he's a little bit more physically, and he's like where Elijah Wood is
Okay,
small and petite. He's a petite dude, but he's tall. You know, he's got
right.
some physical intimidation to him, but you wouldn't see him and be like, oh, he's a threat.
I'd rather have. I mean, I'm not saying I'd rather than that character because
No, no.
I don't know that actor. I would rather see some. Give me like, and this is crazy. Give me Colin Farrell like doing like a fucking scumbag, you know what I mean? Like doing
I
his
can see that.
penguin, like the penguin, but
Yeah,
as that, just someone that's
that's
fucking
that's
balding and
outside
is
the
like that a
box.
young girl would never want. That's the thing. I guess that's the big difference. You couldn't a picture because you only never mind. And in the original, he is kind of the photographer that's super hot does seem to be attracted to him. So I'll throw that
Oh,
out the
all right.
window. I want someone
All
a
right.
lot uglier and just more like off-putting in general than Elijah Wood. I'm not good
What
with
what?
actors, so I can't give you many more.
All right. So
What up,
that's a
Christina?
different thing.
Sorry. What up,
Yeah, what
Christina? Appreciate you always. And
that's a
Sal.
different thing as well. Because it's like, are we all right? So if we're trying to go more in, because I feel like they're trying to go a different route by casting someone like Elijah Wood. But are we
Mm-hmm.
trying to make it more like the OG? Because that's actually I would love to see like I'm getting vibes like Mark Wahlberg as an older dad in Lovely Bones or something like that.
Hmm.
Colin Farrell, Penguin, or Mean Bosses. Um, but if we're just trying to replace the Elijah Wood archetype, where it's like not assuming like he doesn't necessarily come off like a scumbag, kind of like a nice boy next door type of shit,
Right.
then yeah, I would go with that's. I mean, that's a good question. I
Go
would
with
like to see that
if I
remade
was
with.
gonna say if you're going along those lines and you just want a better actor, but you want someone as close to Elijah Wood as possible, it's Daniel Radcliffe. You know what I mean? He's the other one. Don't you think Daniel
Ooh,
Radcliffe and Elijah Wood are like the same fucking person? But Daniel
yes, they're
Radcliffe,
always going to
I
be
do think he's a little bit more talented.
Daniel Radcliffe.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're always going to look like young boys.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, maybe it's a height thing too, because I know they're both like 5'5".
Sal saying a lot of it is
You
about the
guys,
voice, though. Elijah has such a soft voice. It stands out so much.
yeah.
Wasn't menacing enough. I know. He feels like he's always trying to
It's
be
like he's
like a
whispering.
yeah, like he's a little boy. And he plays that similar a kind of similar thing in Yellow Jackets and
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
monkey. The monkey,
Yep.
he's like this happy-go-lucky guy. It's like, I don't know. I don't like his choices. I'm not gonna say he's a bad actor because he's pulling off what he's trying to do, but I don't like what he's trying to do in a lot of his roles.
I wonder if it's because he just. I don't know. I don't know because I was like, maybe it's because he's a child actor, but then I'm thinking of Lord of the Rings, and he was certainly doing that as Frodo.
Mm-hmm. You, you
Sound
remember Radio Flyer? Did you ever see Radio Flyer back in the day? That was
is
he was a kid and like a young kid in that. It was out in 92,
was he the
1992.
one where he changes his parents?
It's a Richard Donner. No, I don't think so. I don't think that's what it was. It was like he gets a what the fuck is it
A
called?
box cart or a wagon, and he
Yeah,
turns it
yeah,
into
yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
he's got a
yeah.
wagon. He turns it into where like it fly. I haven't seen this movie in like
Yep.
30 years, but I loved it when I was a kid. I didn't know that
That
was
I love
Richard
that
Donner.
one. And there's this movie called like North or something where he was like he got tired of his
Yeah.
parents, so he's trying to find another family. And I
Yep.
used to loved it.
That's so funny. I haven't thought about either
Radio
of those
Flyer.
movies in a long time. Hell yeah. I used to watch Radio Flyer all the time. Ed North. What else did I want to hit on? Okay, let's before we get up out this bitch, let's talk about the kills. which I would say there's some cool moments. There's one I had seen like going through images. That's one thing I'm always like hesitant to do. Like I've got to make the thumbnail. I want to get the thumbnail made so I can like tell people what we're doing and everything. But I don't want to search the images too much on a movie that I haven't seen. So the one image that I saw, unfortunately, before I got to the end, was the ending of them. Like I thought they were about to rip his head off, like they do in the original, and they ripped his face off. I was like, oh, that was fucking pretty cool too. I wish they would have ripped his head off, but I did think that was great. The other image, this is what I was gonna say. The other image that I saw was when he rips the art lady, the art manager, when he scalps her and rips her fucking head off. I thought that was super gnarly. I saw an image of that.
Was she the one where he's I will say that I feel like we brought that up in the first one just a little bit because I think it was a fine film, but I would have appreciated just a few more kills. But in this one, kills galore. He's scalping everybody. Everybody's getting scalped.
I wonder if there's more kills. I thought there was less kills because you don't get like Tom Savini's head. That's the one kill that they didn't do. Is the head getting blown off. I wish they would have fucking pulled that off. I'm trying to think. I wonder if I feel like there's about the same amount of kills.
There might have been the same. I maybe it's because there wasn't the shoddy kill. I felt like, and there was just only scalpings in this one. I feel like there was a little bit more, but I mean, I think they did well with the effects. To be honest, when it came to the scalpings, like I was just like, oh shit, because it's like in some aspects he just did one cut and just ripped it off. He wasn't even trying to make it a clean. It was very. I did like the ending where they were like tearing his flesh off his face and stuff and just peeling it. It wasn't very. It was quick, but it wasn't like they were like quick cuts. You got to see a little bit of the effects and them really peeling the skin off. So
don't you think like there had to be some kind of CG because it was like they had his face. It was clearly Elijah Wood. They're pulling away. They've got like some fake skin on his face, and then it's like a quick tear. There was probably an edit, and all of a sudden it's like a mannequin face.
Yes,
and it's like stuck stone cold still. It looked fucking cool. It was like there was a lot of CG used, and you could kind of tell, but it wasn't like, especially the opening scene. Like that was the one that was kind of like right off the bat. I'm like, oh, okay. Like one of the things in the original, like that opening scene where you've got Frank's face looking all fucking crazy, choking that girl out. And it's really raw and it's really gritty, and like it's kind of it's the movie in a nutshell. It's like in that scene, and them to replace that scene by a knife to the throat using CG, although it was cool, it's really indicative of like, okay, you're not going to get the grime. They didn't go for the grime.
You can go for gas or you can go for laughs, and they were cheap and went for the laugh.
They did. They went for kind of like, I don't know, like a shock, but they didn't make you feel like you had to take a shower. Like we mentioned in the last one, it didn't give you that like, ew, that icky vibe. And part of that is Elijah Woods. The ickiest thing about him was his hands. It was like, they probably weren't his fucking hands. I think about it.
You know what bugged me when he not the first girl, the first one because she was at her house, but the one with all the tattoos. After he finishes her up and he goes and throws up in the toilet, it really bugged me because he even bothers to wipe some of it up, but it's like, motherfucker, if you can even wipe some of it up, clean all of it up. You just did a quick white job, and that bothered the shit out of me, bro.
Oh, the same way. We both must have that touch of OCD because I'm thinking the same shit. It's like, bitch, you're gonna clean up the stuff on the floor too. First of all, why are you cleaning anything up? Get the fuck out of there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I thought you must be. I'm the same way. We're like, especially like in an old sitcom, they did it all the time. Someone will come in the house, bust in the house, and they'll leave the door open. And they'll walk off and they'll be talking. They'll walk into another room. In the back of my mind, I'm like, you got to close that goddamn door. You can't just leave the door open.
How would their neighbors randomly just walk in to tell them a surprise? And, that's what we're hoping. But no, that shit like that bothers me all the time. It's like, I can't move on. I'm like still stuck on that 5 minutes later. I'm like, why would not wipe that up? But yeah, that's my smaller gripe.
Her neighbor, the gay neighbor, which I'm debating on calling her Gaber. I think that sounds fun. It's cute enough. He had to be.
I felt like he was maybe posing as gay because
They say these are my reasons. I've got a list of reasons why I think this guy's gay. Let's break it down. Earlier, the black dude at the art show, he's talking to her about she always hangs out with gay men because they're not trying to fuck her, blah blah blah. And then when you meet him, first of all, I'm like, I bet he's gay. And then she's like, this is whatever his name is. He's a hairdresser. I'm like, okay, he's definitely gay. And then he starts talking, and he's like, just his voice was like, yeah, he's definitely.
You know what? I could believe that, but to the scene to me that maybe I was thinking like maybe he's bisexual or maybe it's an act. But because wasn't he when he was in the bathroom talking to Elijah Wood and he was just came off.
Well, that was a different dude. That was a different dude.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I missed
that. See, and I thought exactly. I think that dude was trying to bang her. At first, I was like, oh, he's gay. Because Elijah Wood is jealous. The only reason why it's important that he's gay is because Elijah Wood was jealous of the guy that wasn't gay, pretty much.
Okay.
And then the guy that was gay, I thought, oh, he'll be safe. Nope, took a cleaver to the face, and that was pretty fucking. That was pretty fucking cool. Did she live? It's the same thing, right? Where she lived at the end.
No, she almost lived, but they're doing the whole run. She shanks him with the handpiece. She gets in a car.
Oh yeah.
And somehow they're like driving at Elijah Wood and she turns the steering wheel and they run into like this and she goes flying through the windshield.
Right.
I think she's still alive, but he like went to go. No, they cut. I think they insinuated that he was about to scalp her though. Like
in the street, right?
Yeah, in the middle. Yeah, and he was gonna just.
Dude, that's one thing that both these movies do, and a lot of movies will do this. Like so many fucking movies, even like Fight Club, we just watched that. It'll take place in a big city, and there'll be nobody around.
But no one's around.
Nobody around. And it's like just like the subway in the last one. I think it's kind of true. I don't live in a fucking big city. I don't visit them too often. I go to Chicago every now and then, but I don't go into these big areas where there's no one around for fucking miles and they can't hear you scream. But I do feel like there's some truth to that when you're surrounded by people, but it's like big enough. Like, I do think you can find subway areas in New York City where there's a bathroom where people aren't going to hear you scream. I don't know, but it always weirds me out. Like, why is there nobody around?
And it was funny because in the subway scene in this one, because I was wondering, I was like, Jesus Christ. I was like, this, I get it in this, maybe in the 70s, 80s, but I think it's 2012 at this point. Like,
right,
come on now. Life was a little bit, we got more people. Yeah, yes, do something. But she, at one point, she's like, Jesus, where the fuck is everybody?
Oh, and, she says that?
I don't know. I was just like, yeah. And I'm like, I'm right there with you, sister. At
least she said it.
He's skipping. No, yeah, she said it. And because, Elijah Wood, it's like he's toying with her. It'd be a different story if he was more efficient and just about his prey. But he's like doing this cat and mouse shit where he's like running after her, not running after her.
Nailed it. Johnny, Evan Peters. He's that good balance of like, you're still getting that young, kind of cute. You know what I mean? Maybe the photographer would have been into him, but way creepier than Elijah Wood would ever be.
That's I like where your head's at, Johnny, because that wasn't even on my radar, and Evan Peters is perfect for that.
For sure.
I feel like he's made his career out of that almost.
Mm-hmm. No, he's spot on. I don't know. I think we pretty much done did it, man. Let's rate this bitch. If you guys have seen this bad boy, then put your rating out of 5 down below. And I'm sitting there trying to think of where I'm at. I think I'm locked in at where I'm at. You want me to kick it off, or you ready to roll, Hank? I think he wants me to roll. Well, let me tell you first before we give our ratings what we're doing on Wednesday. We'll be here with Brother Stu, 12:30 Central Time this Wednesday to talk Killing of a Sacred Deer, which I think you've seen. Stu hasn't seen. It'll be a first time watch for Stu and I. And Missing Link will be talking that with us on Wednesday. And then next Sunday, Link and I will be back here talking something. I'm still not 1,000%. We kind of threw out one show and we did this one instead. But we'll be back doing a double feature of 2 new horror movies that have released recently. If you guys have requests, let me know down below, either in the comments, in the chat. You can hit me up on Instagram at blood.splatter.chatter. And Link, brother, what do you give this 1 out of 5?
I thought Stu had seen Killing of Sacred Deer. I'm glad I didn't say too much to spoil it for either one of you guys. But this one, it had its flaws and doesn't quite live up to the original, but it does forge its own identity in certain ways. And I will say that I do feel if I had seen this without seeing the OG, it would have made me want to seek out the OG. And it's doing its job to an extent. The inspiration is there, and I guess they went for it, because I would be mad if it's just them trying to rehash the OG film without trying to add a different flavor to it or say anything different. That being said, does rely quite a bit on shock value, and I think you read my mind, because I was literally thinking that, where I was like, even though this is first person, we spend more time with Elijah Wood. I feel like we connected more in the OG with the character, which is odd. It's an entertaining film. It doesn't really explore the themes as much as I would have wanted it to, or it could have lent itself to, but it's worth a watch. It did its job. So I'll give it a solid 3.25. I was going to give it 3.5, but I don't feel like it's, because I gave the OG a 4, and I don't feel like it's very close to the OG, but it's not a terrible film. So I'll give it a 3.25.
I think that's quite fair. I'm right there with my brother Sal. I'll give it a 3. I could have went 2.75, but I appreciate what they did. In a lot of ways, I did appreciate the POV stuff. It was fun. Yeah. It just wore thin, as I said at the beginning. They didn't pull that, and it's hard to. It's hard to make that gimmick work for the entire runtime. And then just to repeat what we've said, that fucking style of acting drives me nuts. It's why I don't like Cloverfield more. Like there's people that are like that. You'll be in the world and you'll hear people talking, and you're like, you are not talking. You're talking to everyone. Like, you're not talking to the person that you're actually talking to. You want everyone to hear what you're saying right now. And I can't stand that shit. I've even heard myself fucking do that, especially in my younger years. And I can't stand myself when I do it either. So there's something that fucking bugs me about that. The kills were cool, though. Elijah Wood wasn't the greatest. The schizo stuff, there was the other moment where they were sitting at the park and like all the ducks, they got like fucking extra ducky for a second. You're like, whoa. And they didn't lead into that. Then he was like, oh, I've got a migraine, and he left. It's like, well, what do you have, fucking migraines, or are you schizophrenic? I thought that was a little bit weird. Like he went and got medicine for his migraine.
Or was it?
I don't know. They told like the doctor said like, oh, this is just like stuff for migraine, or for migraines, this nasal spray. So I thought that was weird. It's like, which one is it? Is it schizophrenia, or is it he better not kill these women and scalp them for fucking migraines? Like, that's not very cool. Like, that's different.
That is interesting. I mean, the scenes like the dinner scene, the duck scene, that those were cool. I wish it would have leaned more into those, like you were saying. But I feel like the doctors would have addressed like something about his schizophrenia or something. I don't know. The movie definitely missed certain points where they could have, expanded upon that just a little bit more to make things a little bit more clear. Because you're right, like you just got a bad migraines, bro. You're just taking it out.
Sal says he feels like he's misdiagnosing himself, which is a good point. That could totally be the case. That makes a lot of sense. Johnny Recap says 3.75. Probably would have been higher if I hadn't seen the OG first. Spot on.
Yep.
Migraines when it's really a bigger psychological problem. Right. Exactly. Hell yeah, man. So a 3 from me, a 3.25 from Missing Link, talking Killing of a Sacred Deer on Wednesday, and 2025 double feature horror next week. I'm thinking drop. I'm thinking it's out on POV. It looks like it was something cool. Probably drop in something else. If anyone's seen that fucking Baby Girl and knows if it's on all a horror movie, let me know. I put the first 20 minutes. I put the first 10 minutes of it on, and I watched Nicole Kidman have 2 orgasms in 10 minutes. I'm like, fuck, we might want to do this, dude. We might want to give this one a whirl. But I don't know. We'll figure it out.
I'm down.
You got anything going on? Any final words for the folks out there?
See you classy people later, and just be true to yourself. There's a lot of crazy shit going on out here, and people are pump faking, and I just, be true to yourself, people. That's all I gotta say. But I will be back here next week, bright and early, Wednesday, 1:30 p.m. for Killing of a Sacred Deer.
That's what I'm talking about. We'll see you guys on Wednesday. I'll just pop in to say, great call, Johnny Recap. Great call. We will check out that ugly stepsister. I've heard good things. Brand new on Shudder. I'm down. Consider it done. See you on Sunday.